Hello, medical terminology students. This week we focus on chapter 8, the female reproductive system, and that's your only chapter for this week. And that's because it's a combination of uh, the actual female body along with in addition to the reproductive pregnancy aspect of the female body. So let's begin. You've got some external genitalia. You can see the pictures are on 205 of your book. And some terms here. So we've got our perineum and our vulva. Some other terms, labia minora and labia majora. Another term you'll see, vestibule. And then the different abbreviations. Many times you see a common abbreviation which combines OB and G, and they refer to it as OBGYN, which GYN means gynecology, and OB means obstetrics, which gynecology is the study of women, then the obstetrics has to do with the reproductive system. Now we've got singular and plural forms of terms, labium, and then we got labia, majus and majora, minus and minora. Some other word manipulation you'll see, fornix, fornices, ruga and rugae, and then changing the bottom terms into an adjective form. So you have vagina goes to vaginal, vulva, and vulvar. Got our ovaries, and we've got our fallopian tubes. And then now we have to do with the creation of my apologies, I went back on that. Creation of the egg. So we have oogenesis and an oocyte, and then our ovulation. Ovarian hormones. There's several hormones in the female system that help with, creating a child, help with creating the secondary sex organs, lots of different things. So you can see here what estrogen does. And then this is on page 211. And then you can see here what progesterone does. Some other abbreviations that you might come over to see is FSH, which is the follicle stimulating hormone, and the gonadotropin releasing hormone, and luteinizing hormone. And you can see this just shows a picture of the menstrual cycle on page 211 and what happens in the body and where the estrogen kind of peaks up and how that works with the menstrual cycle that shows down below. Same thing with progesterone. You can see that where it kind of elevates up and goes up in a small curve, but how it actually works in the menstrual cycle. Other terms, we have follicle, involute, and ovulate. All right, disorders of the female reproductive system. Starts on page 213. We have bacterial vaginosis, toxic shock syndrome, vulvovaginal candidiasis, and vulvodynia. some sexually transmitted diseases. So you can see there's several on here in your book, and you'll see pictures of them in your book. Gonorrhea, syphilis, a chancroid, and trichomoniasis. All right, so just be aware of some different spelling, the correct spelling of terms. So is it the first one or the second one? Gonorrhea, is it the first one or the second one? Papilloma, first one or the second one? Syphilis, the first one or the second one? This is a common condition of the ovaries. It's probably more common than what is out there. It's called polycystic ovarian syndrome, PCOS. And so you can see how it's broken down. And if you look on page 217, I'll let you read all the things that are involved in polycystic ovarian syndrome because it's a little bit complex. And then we go into disorders of the uterus and the uterine tubes. So we have amenorrhea or amenorrhea. Sometimes people say a or an. Dysmenorrhea, endometriosis, uterine prolapse, uterine fibroids, polymenorrhea, or metrorrhagia. Menorrhagia, menopause, salpingitis, leiomyoma. Oh, we don't have to do the group activity. Sorry about that. I forgot to remove the group activity out of there. Okay, so let's take a look at gynecological diagnostic procedures. I skipped over the cancer area, so you'll learn about that in your some in your smart book if you want to. But for these purposes, I didn't talk about it. So we have some diagnostic procedures. We've already heard this term before in this slideshow: laparoscopy, cervical biopsy, colposcopy, and hysteroscopy. Hysterosalpingography. No, hysterosalpingography. That's how we say it. Hysterosalpingography. Endometrial biopsy. Ooh, I'm getting my tongue tied now. Endometrial biopsy. Hysterosalpingogram. An ultrasound. And postcoital testing. Now we have therapeutic procedures, cryosurgery, endometrial ablation, hysterectomy, oophorectomy, colporrhaphy, and colpopexy. Other terms, we have dysplasia or a cystocele. Now we're going into the part of the actual obstetrics and childbirth. Anybody know the difference between what fertilization and implantation is? You'll be able to see that on page 231 in your book. All right, so here we go. Embryo in Greek means young one. Placenta in Latin means cake. Fetus in Latin means offspring. There are different types of multiple births. You have dizygotic and monozygotic. And you can take a look in your book. Those two terms, dizygotic and monozygotic, are still on page 231 if you want to read up on the difference between those. This here is the development of the embryo, fetus, and placenta. There is a textbook, kind of like a little breakdown of kind of what happens in the development, embryo, fetus, and placenta. And then it goes into the actual labor and childbirth. I'm not going to read over these as you guys can read them or you'll go through them in your smart book. Here's some other terms that you might see: abortion, gravida, para, anteverted. The hormones of the pregnancy, these are different hormones of the pregnancy and the childbirth. So your body will create these hormones that stimulate things to happen in your body. So your human chorionic gonadotropin, estrogen, progesterone, we've already talked about those, follicle stimulating hormone, and luteinizing hormone. And you will see what those things do on page 234 in your textbook. Then we come into disorders of the pregnancy and childbirth, and now we jump to page 237. So there's an ectopic pregnancy, hyperemesis gravidarum, and oligohydramnios. Gestational classification, there's some terms that are, some conditions that would be considered a premature delivery or full-term delivery or post-term delivery, and this has to do with the weeks of gestation. Disorders of childbirth, so this is the act of actually giving childbirth, so placenta abruptio, placenta previa, a nuchal cord, and meconium. Now we have the procedures of pharmacology in childbirth: an amniocentesis, a tubal ligation, and there's, let's do those really quickly. Now we have the breast. The breast anatomy disorders. Disorders of the breast: mastitis, mastalgia, galactorrhea, gynecomastia. These BRCA1, BRCA2, people commonly refer to them as BRCA2 or BRCA1 and BRCA2, having to do with breast cancer. And you can read in your textbook about those. And then we have some diagnostic and therapeutic procedures of the breast: a breast self-examination, pretty self-explanatory, a mammogram, a lumpectomy, mastectomy, and then radiation therapy, of course. Here's some other terms that I'll let you determine the prefix, root word, and or combining form and the suffix and determine what the definition is, but I'll read them to you. Hysteroscopy, dyspareunia, metrorrhagia, vulvodynia, salpingitis, neonatal, prima gravida, postpartum, endometrium, nuchal cord, amniocentesis, mastalgia, colposcopy, endometriosis, perinatologist, and menstruation. That's it for chapter 8.